Good evening, everybody. Welcome. Happy Monday night. It's a big week, short week. Hopefully we show up, unlike the Falcons did last Thursday on this short week, and get you right to the Thanksgiving holiday. Week 11 wraps up tonight with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers hosting the New York Giants. We have plenty to get to from yesterday in the NFL. This is The Slate. It's a DraftKings program that airs every weekday in the 5 o'clock Eastern Time hour. And we'll take you up until 6 o'clock tonight with no Madden Sims, because there is a football game this evening. Matt Meiselman is here. Geoff Ulrich is here. Meiselman has some thoughts on futures, and we can certainly dive into those as we react to what happened yesterday in the NFL. Just another crazy week. I still think we don't know if anyone's any good in the National Football League. Geoff, why don't you start us off? What's on your mind here as we wrap up Week 11? What'd you think of yesterday?
You had some bigger teams, getting kind of knocked down or rung. Nothing like I wasn't shocked that the Titans lost. I mean, I think some people were pointing to that as like the biggest shock, but we've talked about it on the show and I've admitted it. I mean, I think every team in the AFC is capable of losing any week. So it doesn't shock me that happened. I think to me, the biggest shock of the week is just the Bills not showing up again. I mean, this is a team that just, they're so much more inconsistent than they were last year. And it does make you start to wonder, is not being able to run the ball and being so one-dimensional on offense kind of just going to be their downfall? Because it does seem like that is maybe a thing here. The Chiefs defense has been a lot better over the last 3 weeks. And I think that finally shone through. And I think that's finally catching people's attention. Beating the Dallas Cowboys, who everybody was very high on. Everyone thought Dallas is a quality team. It's a very quality. They're better than the Chiefs. Well, if Dallas is a quality team, the Chiefs just beat a really quality team pretty handily. So, again, there was just overreaction to the Chiefs start, and now they're co-favorites to win the conference. So yeah, lots going on last week. Lots actually. I know going into last week, I said there's a lot of pivotal games. And the way some of them broke, man, we still just, it broke the way to give us the least clear picture in each conference, it feels like, that we could possibly have. Because if the Titans had won, we could say, well, the Titans are still good. And if the Cowboys won, we could say, oh, well, they're clearly the class of the NFC, but the Packers lost too. And it's just more muddled after last week. So.
Yeah, don't look now. The Chiefs are playing defense, and the Colts are a good team to bring up. I was down on the Colts going into the year. They were 0-3. I thought, well, looks like I was right on that one. Turns out the Colts are very much alive. Even last night's game, the Steelers and the Chargers, that was a nutty game, but maybe those two teams are a factor. But it feels like right now the two teams trending up in the AFC are the Chiefs and the Patriots. As Geoff mentioned, Chiefs and Bills are both the co-favorites in the AFC at plus 350 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Baltimore and New England file in next at plus 600. Don't really understand the whole Baltimore thing. Maybe because it was no Lamar Jackson, so the books are giving them a break because they didn't have their best player. Titans in next at plus 800. Matt Meiselman, what are your thoughts from yesterday?
Yeah, so the Chiefs being back thing, I don't even know if we can still say that. Mahomes didn't play well against the Cowboys. Their defense played really well, and that wasn't really the case against the Raiders. The Chiefs were just great everywhere in that game against the Raiders, the primetime game. So, I mean, football is just so hard sometimes. I've been saying for a while that it's just, we don't know that much because the season is not that long. These teams haven't played that many games. It's hard to sort things out, but it's also just the nature of football. In basketball, you don't have plays like Isaiah McKenzie falling down on a kick return and fumbling it right into the red zone for the other team. That swings the whole game. To me, that was the most surprising final score. I don't think the Titans are great. It was just not that the Colts won, that they won by so much that they just dominated from start to finish. But a couple fluky plays like that, it swings an entire game. So we're going to just continue to see more of this. I don't think it's necessarily just a this year thing. I think this is just how football is. But even for me, who has been saying the whole year the Colts are a better team than the Titans, I even thought 2 weeks ago the Colts were dead for the division just because of how far back they were. And at this point, it actually looks like they have a shot. I mean, I still think the Titans ultimately wind up on top. They do have this tiebreaker because they've beaten them head-to-head twice. But, the Colts are back in the race. The Titans could lose a bunch of their remaining games. So the Colts have looked good. I mean, are they the best team in the NFL now? I don't really know what to say on that. And then also the MVP race, where I thought Josh Allen had done enough against the Jets to put himself squarely in the number one spot. Now he's not even the favorite anymore. He's not even, Brady is well ahead of him. So
Yeah.
I have no idea. Like at this point, who wins NFL MVP? I have no clue. Like I almost don't even have a take on it at this point. There's so many guys who are in the hunt now.
Well, it makes sense, right? You look at the race of who's going to win each conference. It mirrors the exact unsettled behavior, the unsettled thought process of who's going to win the MVP award. You feel like if someone is a clear-cut favorite to win MVP, well, we thought it was Kyler Murray, but he hasn't been playing. Even though the Cardinals keep winning, he hasn't been playing, so he can't win the award. Those usually line up pretty well, but it makes sense. They mirror each other. We don't know who's going to win MVP. There's like 8 guys who could win it. And there's maybe 8 teams that could win the Super Bowl this year. So it actually makes a lot of sense. If Tampa Bay doesn't screw it up tonight, hard to find a way for Brady not to stay up top by himself. He's at plus 350, and then it's Josh Allen in next at plus 600. How about the NFC? Just looking at the picture, I know I've come on here the last couple weeks. Oh, look at the Saints. They're going to be in that 5 spot. They've lost 2 in a row. They lost to the Titans. They lost to the Eagles.
Well, you did pick the Saints to miss the playoffs 3 weeks ago before you were you were talking them down before you were talking them up. I think you were right.
I think that was me. I don't think that was Glash.
No, I may have mentioned it, but we do have a show to do today.
Okay, yeah.
So opinions do change from week to week. We have a show to do today before this game tonight, and we have to react to what happened the day before. And at the time, I was like, the Saints, it might be something worth looking into after another loss and losing Alvin Kamara. Now they've lost 2 in a row. That number's not very appealing. The team we did mention was the Minnesota Vikings. When they lost Sunday night to Cooper Rush, they were plus 300 not to get in, and now they're only at plus 100 to not get in.
The Vikings have been really good. I was ready when the Vikings went up 2 scores. I was ready to just claim victory on the whole day because I was just assuming I was going to be right about everything. The Vikings did ultimately win, but I was picking Seattle as a decent bet against the Cardinals, expecting Kyler Murray to play. I thought they were good
all
value.
On board with that.
Yeah, even with Murray in, we thought that Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, they haven't scored a touchdown in 2 games since he came. They have 6 points, right?
Yep,
or
did they scored yesterday?
They got 1 late. Okay, yeah. So, but Wilson was terrible, right? I forgot they scored at the end. I have no idea what's going on with him. Like that, they opened at plus 3 for the week. They closed at minus 3.5, and they didn't even get close to covering. I don't know.
When we found out Kyler got ruled out, Cardinals were getting 5. That's what I saw.
Wow.
I mean, I don't even know what to say about it.
No, it's like I was on board too. I think I said at the start of the week, I hope Kyler plays and the Seahawks stay at plus 3. But it feels like I don't think Russell Wilson could be 100%. I've never seen him play that bad in 2 games in a row in my life. And then the other thing is, I think this Russell Wilson Pete Carroll thing is done. It was. I mean, look, he was
bingo.
He was 1 move away from getting a trade. I mean, he was almost gone in the offseason. People forget that relationship isn't exactly on steady ground. I think there's. I think this is almost at the end of Aaron Rodgers, Mike McCarthy thing. That's kind of what it feels like. The team wasn't playing good. Aaron Rodgers just checked out, and then they made a move at the end of the year. And I'm not saying Pete Carroll's getting fired, because the team seems like they want to side with him over Russell Wilson. But it does feel like that kind of situation, at the end of the Mike McCarthy era. That's just the feeling. This Seahawks team is, that was bad.
Felt really good about Cam Newton and the Panthers yesterday. While he looked good, the Panthers did not win.
My God. How many 3rd and 15 conversions can you give to Taylor Heineke? That defense really let them down. Cam was good, you're right. But Carolina, went from looking like a really good playoff bet to yikes.
I think they were plus 300, last week at this time, maybe Friday, but now they're at plus 650 to get in.
And now they're tied with the Jet. No, they're behind the 49ers. They're tied with the Eagles. So they're in a tough spot now.
Hey, don't sleep. Geoff has mentioned the Eagles and he's mentioned the Giants. Of course, the Giants have to come through tonight, but keep an eye on those bottom, of course, really, I guess everybody now in the NFC East.
I mean, it wasn't even
of Dallas.
Yeah, it wasn't even a specific team thing. It was just take the longest odds possible because it's just so up for grabs. I think right now the 49ers, very good spot. I like the Eagles. They're scrappy, but I don't know if they got the juice to get there and grab that last position.
Any Geoff, you have a thought on the MVP race? Do you want to weigh in?
And I don't remember getting this deep in a year and not having feeling confident about at least 2 guys. This is a really weird year for MVP. I think there is a small argument you can make for Jonathan Taylor. I know his odds came down from like plus 10,000 to plus 2,000, but we're just at a point like no quarterback has separated themselves. And maybe it is going to be that funky year where like Cooper Kupp or Jonathan Taylor get it done. If Taylor keeps just finding the end zone, and again, we don't have that many games left. So I think that in a short span, he could do it. I think there's probably a little value there, but I really feel like the market wants to give it the market has overreacted. It feels like to every player except for Tom Brady and Josh Allen. Tom Brady's coming off 2 losses. He's thrown 4 interceptions. He's still the favorite. Josh Allen, he's looked bad in like 2 of his last 4 games. He's still the second favorite. These are the 2 guys that the people want to give the MVP award to this year. And I think that you've got to side with one of them because we've seen like every other guy has, they either haven't done enough to get up there, or when they do, the market reacts the other way. I think it's Brady or Allen's to win or lose with, a Taylor or a Cooper Kupp as a long shot.
Really? How about Mahomes though? Because there is a path for Kansas City to still get the one.
Yeah, but I think that at this point, like
long, right?
Sorry, what was that, Matt?
I was just asking. He struggled for too long, right? Like that's the problem.
I think so. He's going to set like career high in interceptions and career lows and like other things. Like it's just, I just don't. And also, I think you get to a point with Mahomes where like he's won it, and the market again. This is a sentiment award. Like this isn't an award.
I agree.
Given out by
why is Brady up there? That I guess, but Brady hasn't struggled as much as Mahomes.
Brady's 44, and he's got that sentiment around him, right? Like I know Brady's won it before, but this is like it's almost like winning it as like a different person and on a different team, So
great.
I think the sentiment is really high on Brady and Allen. They seem to be the guys who just kind of a bit Teflon proof. The others just they seem to be not quite as favored. Stafford might be another guy to think about, but it's jumbled this year for sure.
I do think Justin Herbert has a shot to get into the race, and then but it's gonna. I think a lot of this is going to depend on just who is good down the stretch. Like I still think there's a lot that could be determined. But if you're betting Jonathan Taylor now, you're basically buying as high as possible. Like I think this week took Jonathan Taylor from a 0.001% chance to win and moved him up to like a couple percentage points. Like it's now possible that he wins, but 20 to 1, I don't think is reasonable. Like that's an overreaction. He could win. Like it wouldn't be an absolute miracle now, but I still think he's a long shot.
I think I'm probably with you just because for MVP, I won't even bet anyone who's not a quarterback. I think I'd rather bet Herbert as well at shorter odds because if he does end up winning the division, like their defense has been bad, right? Like it's going to be because Justin Herbert just got fired down the stretch. I think there's some interest there. But it really does feel like it's Brady or Allen. And maybe it won't be the greatest MVP season ever, but it does feel like that's where the market wants to go.
Well, and everyone will forget about Josh Allen's little 3-week blip if indeed they take, at the very minimum, split against New England to win the division.
That's the thing. That's a good point. They're going to have quality games against a quality team now, and if they win both or just even split it and win the division, that's going to look good on him. So
exactly.
We're going to get to this too, but the Bills play the Patriots 2 more times. That is relevant for a lot of reasons. But if Allen beats New England twice, like he's going to win.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I think that would do it. Yeah.
Right.
But also I think
folks will remember beating the Patriots in your division because of how great they've been forever. And they'll forget a Jacksonville loss and a loss at home to the Colts getting blown out. They'll just forget about it.
But I do think New England should be favored for the division now. They're plus money still. That seems like an undercorrection to me. The Patriots have been like there's an argument they're the best team in the NFL now. I don't want to say it with much conviction because it's football and especially this year, who the hell knows? But like they've played better than the Bills they've played significantly better than them if you look at the full picture for the year. And the recent performances, I mean, it's night and day between those 2 teams. They haven't really had a letdown in a while. So they're ahead in the standings. Like, I think that for those 2 games, we haven't seen the lines yet, but New England will be a 3-point favorite at home and they'll probably be a 3-point favorite on the road. And like those might be both underrating the Patriots a little bit.
First meeting between the 2 teams is a Monday night game. So the New England Patriots will get an extra day of rest after they play Tennessee this Sunday. They get the Bills at Buffalo on Monday night. So let's look ahead to tonight's game, Tampa and the Giants. It's a very, very similar. I was just saying this to you guys before we got started. It's a very similar spot. Giants are 3-6. Tampa is 6-3. 2 straight losses for Tampa. a loss going into the bye, then a loss coming out of the bye. Giants are coming off the bye tonight. These two teams in very similar spots last year when they met November 2nd, 2020. It was Brady's first season, of course. The game was in MetLife Stadium. The Bucs won 25-23. Giants scored a touchdown at the end of the game. They've got to go for two. There was a non-pass interference, no call against Bucs corner Antoine Winfield. Game ends. Giants were 1-6 at the time. They went to 1-7. The Bucs were 5-2. They improved to 6-2. The line was 11.5. It's 11.5 right now on the DK Sportsbook. Heading into the game, Tampa was 4-3 against the spread. The Giants were 4-3 against the spread. Tampa's a bit healthier. No Antonio Brown, but Godwin and Gronkowski feel like they're going to be good to go. We still don't know about Barkley. No Sterling Shepard, and also there's a chance Booker misses this game. What's our read on this one right now, Meiselman? What do you think?
So I have the boring take again. Although I did pick the Niners against the Rams. Like, I don't always take nothing. I did make a pick at least. I'm not touting that because it won. I'm touting it because I actually said a pick. Because normally I'm just like, yeah, this line seems right. But for tonight's game, I just think this is a fair line. Like, I should like the Giants here. It feels like the Giants should be able to cover, but I don't see why this line should be that much lower than it is. Like, maybe the fair line's 10. But if you get below that, like, Tampa is so much better of a team, and maybe the Giants can. I think this is what I said for Giants KC, is maybe you get them scoring late to get a backdoor cover, and that's how it works out. Like, I do think the most likely outcome here is the Giants have the ball down 14 or so on the last drive, and like maybe they score, maybe they don't. Like, that's really how I see this playing out. So for DFS, it'll be a different story, just the way the ownership is going to look. I think it'll be pretty Bucks heavy, but for betting purposes, like it's a stay away for me on like all accounts.
What do you think, Geoff?
Okay, so
don't mind me, by the way. I'm just going to have a sip of my water.
What's the Giants' record this year?
They're 3-6.
Right, 3-6. Okay.
Okay. What else you need?
Okay, so going back to last year, if we take out the two games where Daniel Jones was injured or missed this year, the last 15 games, basically the last 15 games where Daniel Jones has started and finished a game at quarterback for the New York Giants, they have not lost by more than 3 points. So I don't know what their overall record is, but they've never lost by more than 3 points. That's 15 games. Like they are. I don't know. I don't even know what. I'm not even going to sit here and like ask and like pretend like I know why. But they have been very good when Daniel Jones is in the game at just keeping games close, at just moving the ball and keeping games scrappy. I mean, I don't. Yeah. It's such a football term, but like that's the kind of team they are. Like they're okay on offense. Daniel Jones moves the ball a little bit. Their defense is kind of average, not that great against the run, but they also like don't allow a ton of passing touchdowns. I think this line from the get-go was too big, and now it's moved up to 11.5. Way too big. So yeah, I'll follow that trend. It's also one of those trends where it probably, like they could lose their next two games by 20 points and no one would be shocked. But, with Tampa Bay too, and this is kind of something with an older quarterback. And I said this at the start of the year, this is kind of the time when I think you do start to fade Tampa's big lines. Tom Brady, I know he's like great. I agree. Like it's a fantastic season, but he's 44 years old and we're like 10 games into the NFL season now. And that's typically when the older players start to fade a little bit. And you see that in older players and other stats, other positions as well, like wide receiver and things like that. So I'll take the Giants here at the big plus points. I'm glad it's moving. Yeah, that's my take on the Giants here. I think they're a good spread bet tonight.
The general trend to look at, to Geoff's point, is look, home field advantage doesn't really matter anymore. Road teams are 11-3. Road teams this week are 11-3 against the spread, and they're covering this year at a 60% rate. So it makes sense that Tampa, or rather the Giants, would be the play. The splits coming in from our friends over at the DraftKings Sportsbook, Mr. Julian Edlow, Mr. Steve Buchanan. Steve's got the latest out on his Twitter page, at SBuchanan24. So the splits he put out about an hour ago, Bucks -11, 54% of the money, and 61% of the bets are on Tampa -11. So
seems about right. Just public leaning a little bit towards the favorite, but also plenty of people just liking the idea of the Giants getting an upset against Tom Brady. I kind of feel like that's just thing people like to root for, especially in New Jersey. But I'm just curious, what is that stat on Daniel Jones with keeping games close? Because
he's one time in his last 15 games that he started and finished. The Giants haven't. The Giants have lost by more than 3 points once in Daniel Jones' last 15 games that started.
That was the Rams game, right? This year at home against the
Rams.
The
Rams one, he didn't play, or he was injured, didn't he?
You know what? So I feel like the issue with the statistic that I may have is that he hasn't finished games when, like, in games where he's been terrible and they got blown out, he just didn't play in the fourth. But maybe it's 2 games. No, it might be mine. Yeah. Because one of the games that might fit is the Dallas game where, like, they were down a bunch, he got hurt, he didn't finish the game, but, like, they weren't going to cover anyway. I feel like there's been a couple like that where he's been
the Dallas game he got knocked out of with a concussion.
Yeah.
Early. Like that's definitely a game not to count.
Yeah.
No, you're right. You know what? You're right. It's actually 2 games in his last 15 starts. So
I mean, either way,
it's still a pretty nice record of the Giants keeping games close, but you're right. It's not 1 game; it's 2 games that they've.
But no, I do think the sentiment is true of what the Giants have done. Like, they have had a knack for keeping games close, but I find, like, the way some of this has happened, or maybe I'm just remembering the Chiefs game much stronger than the other games. Like, Mahomes basically just gave that. Like, there were some weird interceptions that he was throwing where, like, it didn't look like. Oh, I mean, Patrick Mahomes had a month there where he didn't look like himself, but I
fully admit, like, it's not a big enough sample to say, well, the Giants are, better team than we think. It could just be circumstance. But generally when Jones has been healthy and in there, and, over the last year and a half, like, this team under Joe Judge has been a little bit like better, I think, than the record has indicated. So that's it. I mean, I just look at this line, and I also think that, again, like, I think there is something there with Tampa and their offense just not being as good over the last couple of games. And I think you might see that trend go, but
my take on Showdown is gonna make it seem like I agree with you very strongly, though, because I think Giants heavy approach is probably, like, the best way to go here.
Tampa this season is 3-6 against the spread, but all 3 of their wins, they are 3-1 at home. The Giants, they have 5 wins to 4 losses against the spread. 3 of the wins are on the road. And you look at the total, Tampa's 5-4, Giants are 3-5-1 to the over this year. Tampa, 3 wins, 1 loss at home. Giants, 3 wins, 1 loss on the road. And something I asked Geoff right before we went live, based on what he just said, it feels like the Giants, and we're talking against the spread here, the Giants get up for these games. I think back to the Thursday night game at the beginning of the season against Washington. They kept that game close. The game against Kansas City, Monday night, they kept that game close. Meanwhile, Tampa in primetime spots is freaking annoying. Dallas to open the season, close game. Philadelphia going for 2. Yeah. That was a close game. So Geoff's kind of onto something here. I'm sure I'm missing a game or 2.
I think that's the other argument you could say, that this line's too big. I mean, Tampa's coming off a loss to an NFC East opponent. They had a very close game against the Eagles. I mean, are we sure those teams are even, like, better than the Giants? I don't think you can say that, So again, I don't know. Tampa's clearly the better team. I don't want to talk down Tampa too much. But
we're talking spread, though. We're talking about the number, not who's a better team.
It's whether they're going to win by 7-10 or 14. Like, those are probably the most likely margins, and I think it'll be around there. But yeah, I mean,
I think anything over 10 to me is just, it's a little bit inflated, and as we see, it's starting to move. But
real quick before we move over to the showdown for tonight, there is a Millie Maker on DraftKings. Do either of you want to share a thought on the total and or a prop bet for tonight?
I'm not touching the total. I don't know. Maybe Matt has a better take.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah,
I love the total.
Perfect. Exactly.
I think it's going to make exactly 49.5 points. I will say if Booker doesn't play, maybe looking towards some Barkley overs, maybe he has to stay on the field more. With that news, maybe there could be an opportunity there. The Giants may have to rely on him a little more than normal.
I'm a sucker. I like the over tonight because they took the under in last night's game. Taking the under in primetime games.
At least you knew.
At your own risk.
You knew early that. Although most of the points happened in the fourth, but it was already a high-scoring game. That was a wild game.
Well, even the Monday night before, I'm like, oh, under's looking good. Bears and Steelers. What do you know? Justin Fields. They finally let him loose a little bit. Matt Nagy and Big Ben. I mean, Big Ben these last couple of primetime games. What the hell's going on late in these games? He's starting to come alive.
Football, just who knows? Anytime, just anything can happen.
Geoff, you got a prop? Anything you're interested in?
I've written a couple articles the last couple of days about Daniel Jones's passing prop in this game, but it has come up. This morning when I talked about on the sweat, I'm pretty sure it was 243 and now it's 251.5. So I think it's at a point now where it's kind of regulated itself to where it should be. But that was one I was super interested in early in the week. Again, Tampa Bay, they're just a complete funnel of pass kind of defense. I think two quarterbacks. I think it's been Hurts and Fields are the only ones who've gone under 240 this year. I think even the Saints quarterbacks, it was like Winston, Simeon combined, went for over 240. So it just kind of tells you teams pass like 39 times per game against Tampa. Whenever you can get a quarterback that low. The other player I'm interested in,
Brady's number feels really high.
Yeah, but that's what Tampa does. They just throw the ball.
And they won't stop it.
I would say I'm not like super bullish on Brady in this spot. Again, I give a little bit of respect to the Giants defense. I think they've only allowed more than 2 passing touchdowns like twice this year. I kind of fade his touchdown totals as well. I'm not like looking to bet against Brady here, but this might be a spot. Again, I don't know. I typically just stay away from Tom Brady props because they're usually a little bit inflated, but they do pass so much that I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have a strong take towards Brady. I do have a strong take towards Kadarius Toney.
Ooh, what do you got?
You go into the player parlays. I love these bets. These are fun. You don't have to go crazy with these, but if you go into the player props, Kadarius Toney to go over 100 receiving yards plus 1,000. I like that. I think it's the player who's big after the catch.
Over 100.
They're rotating 3. So you got to go to the player parlays. Go up.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Yep. And then go down to the wide receiver position. There it is. All you got to do is break 100 yards. Nope.
Oh, right there. I see it. My bad. Okay. Yeah. Beautiful.
Yeah. Go over 1,000 yards plus. Go over 100 yards. Excuse me. And plus 1,000. Again, it's a situation where I'm expecting Jones to be passing more. You might get some crazy garbage time action going on. I think that's the kind of bet I don't mind targeting Kadarius Toney with. The other receivers aren't doing anything. Sterling Shepard's out. You can't run against the Bucs anyways. It's a good spot.
It's a good transition to go to DFS because I'm really wondering what in the world are we going to get out of the Giants running game? We do have a question in the Twitch chat, also the YouTube chat. We're on Twitter as well. So thank you all for tuning in to us tonight. Do we fade the Giants running game in Showdown? Do we even touch them? So Matt Meiselman.
That's what everyone
tells me. You want to be contrarian tonight.
Oh yeah, that's what everyone's going to do. I love Barkley tonight.
He loves Barkley. Okay,
it's not. I don't necessarily think he'll do well. It's just, he's the starting running back is going to be on the field the majority of the game. It's a slate. We only have 2 teams. There's not that many players to go around, and Barkley has as much upside as anybody in this game. Most likely outcome is he probably rushes for 70 yards and catches a few passes and doesn't score, but I think there's potential for him to break a long play, and I think his ownership will be the lowest of any of the core players on the 2 teams. So I think both quarterbacks obviously higher. I think Godwin's higher, Evans is higher, and then I think Toney, Golladay, and Slayton are all higher, and Fournette's going to be higher. So he's not going to be unowned, but he might be 20%, 25%, and yeah, that's just really appealing for a showdown slate. And he's not that expensive. He's just priced
$7,800. Yeah.
He's like mid-tier pricing where he's just not going to fit into the kind of lineup that I think most people are going to want to make, because probably starting with Brady, it's hard to imagine a game where Brady isn't at least okay with Godwin and or Evans, probably 2 of Godwin, Evans, Fournette for most people. And then I think you probably get like Bucs defense or kicker for a lot of lineups. And then maybe you just play 1 or 2 Giants receivers. I think that's like the vast majority of lineups are going to have only 1 or 2 Giants players. And if they do have 2 Giants players, I think it's going to be a lot of like Daniel Jones with Toney or Slate. I think that's kind of just where most people are looking. So for me, like, I think that you don't want to just fade the Bucs, but I think playing for just Fournette and maybe one of their receivers or Gronk to do really well, and then playing like 3 or 4 Giants, that's a way you're going to get contrarian with it. Like, you don't need to play a backup quarterback or even a backup running back to get contrarian. I think playing Barkley, Jones, a Giants receiver, and then like Evans, Fournette, and I don't know, Graham Gano or something, like that's a sufficiently contrarian lineup in my opinion.
The latest on Rob Gronkowski from Adam Schefter this morning. Full participant in practice this week, expected to be available barring any setbacks. That's the word on Gronk. But he, in all likelihood, will be in there tonight. Chris Godwin's off the injury report. Antonio Brown, we could spend a whole show on him and figure out what the hell's going on with him.
Before you weigh in, Geoff, is Gronk tonight's Jimmy Graham, where we're just going to see him play in the red zone and then almost score like 4 times?
The tight end narrative on Monday Night Football.
You saw that, right? Like Graham scored, it didn't count, and then I think he dropped one. They were like
they targeted him twice in the end zone.
Yeah.
I forget Jimmy Graham's even in the league at this point, except for that game. So yeah, it could be. I mean, I've basically forgotten Gronk's in the league because he's been out so long, but. Someone this morning was talking about Gronk. I think it was Reed, but yeah, I mean, the Bucks are back. Like they don't have Antonio Brown back, but Tyler Johnson's involved. They're kind of back to being, you could stack Brady with like Gronk and Tyler Johnson tonight and bypass some of those top wideouts if you want. Certainly could happen. I definitely like Matt's call with Saquon Barkley. I think obviously if you get the good news of the Booker's out, Barkley's ownership might go up a little bit, but Barkley. I think this is also a very good spot for Barkley to catch like 10 passes. I mean, the Bucks have a great D-line. If you've seen Devin Booker operate over the last little bit, the Giants are using a lot on the screens. They're trying to keep Daniel Jones upright. It's kind of been working too for them. I think you'll just see that with Barkley, and Saquon is a better open field runner who will instead of breaking 20, he'll break 50 yards for a touchdown. So sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a very good idea. I do like Chris Godwin against the secondary, but for showdown DFS purpose, if I'm making one lineup to like throw in the Millie Maker, yeah, I'd rather roll with Barkley there too. I do like Kadarius Toney too. I think that's the other giant receiver I would consider. Again, you've got to think of a guy who can go for 100 yards and a touchdown. And, again, they're kind of just rotating snaps in. I think Toney is the guy there who I would trust the most. But all those Giants receivers probably just they're going to be boom or bust, even in like a high volume pass spot.
All right.
Yeah, I think
we haven't really said yet. So who's the captain's play?
I think we're both on board with Barkley. I mean,
yeah,
you want a captain Barkley.
Yeah. I think you can. I don't think you have to. So I agree on the Giants receivers. Like I think you probably want to play at least one in every lineup, but I don't really have a strong feeling as far as which one you should play. I think one Giants receiver at minimum will probably have a good game if Daniel Jones has a good game. I think you can captain Barkley, but I kind of feel similarly about Evans and Godwin. Then I think you can captain one of those two without playing Brady. So ordinarily, if you're going to play a receiver at captain, you probably want to have the quarterback for that team in the lineup also, because if the receiver's going to have a great game, the quarterback probably needs to have at least a decent game. But Brady is expensive enough where I don't think you necessarily need it. Like there's a scenario where all of the offense just gets concentrated on Evans or Godwin, right? Like we've seen games where Brady throws 3 touchdowns and Evans catches all of them.
Yep.
And Brady could finish with 21 points while Evans has 35. Like that does happen on occasion. So I do think playing Evans in the captain's spot or Godwin and then not playing Brady in that lineup is viable. Whereas in most football games, that's not really something you want to do because you probably need the quarterback to be part of that winning lineup for the receiver to be the captain that works out. And part of the reason this works for Brady too is he never runs. Aside from a QB sneak, possibly, like you don't have to worry about him getting points by himself. Yeah, like if they have 4th and inches at the goal line, maybe he scores. Otherwise, like the probability of Brady getting a rushing touchdown is 0.
What is Brady's rushing prop for tonight?
Yeah, let's see what Brady to score is. I mean, it's got to be at least 25 to 1.
Let's see. Half a yard.
Yeah, go to touchdowns too, though. I'm curious what line you could get Brady to score.
His touchdown props usually aren't that big because I think the books
plus 550.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe I'm misunderstanding, right? Because he could get a sneak. Yeah, it's probably, but that's the only way he's going to score.
Yeah.
Or they do the Philly special, but he can't catch it.
Well, they tried that in the Super Bowl last, and
Nick Foles caught it, but
we're saving that for the Super Bowl again.
Yeah.
Redemption.
All right, that's enough of that. We do have a Millie Maker on Thursday. We can look ahead a little bit to Thursday night.
Right.
We have the 2.75 fantasy football millionaire on DraftKings. 3-game slate starts at 12:30. Bears and Lions. Then we have the Raiders and the Cowboys. Bills visiting the Saints. Have either of you taken a look at this? And if you have, do you have a developing thought, sports book, this particular contest? What are you thinking?
We're going to need news for this DFS contest.
That's true.
Because Alvin Kamara, unless one of you guys knows, like I don't think we know yet if he will be available or not. It seems like that's up in the air.
Alvin Kamara, non-participant today. That's not a good sign.
No, but Mark Ingram's priced up to 6,200 now, so that's just whatever. That's probably where he deserves to be with Kamara out of the lineup. But the other big news that we're going to need is CeeDee Lamb because he left early with, I think, concussion evaluation yesterday. Gallup's 5,900. That's probably too expensive. But if Lamb doesn't play, it's certainly not too expensive. Like he's the main guy. And then these other Cowboys wide receivers like Cedric Wilson and Noah Brown and Malik Turner don't cost anything. So like they could be down to that on the depth chart. Without knowing if Lamb's going to play or not, I feel like it's going to be really hard to make much of a call.
And real quick, no Amari Cooper because he's not vaccinated, right. So he's out.
I was just going to say he's not. He can't be back for this game, right?
Yep. He's
already
10-day minimum, so he's out.
Okay, and then you've got the quarterback situation with Detroit and Chicago. So,
I mean, are you really going to try to play one of those guys?
Well, yeah, because it's a 3-game slate, and I'm an idiot, Matt. So, yes.
No, I would too. If it's Fields, also you get the rushing upside in a good matchup. Like,
it's more Fields than Goff. Let's admit it. It's more Fields than Goff.
I would probably consider Goff, but I don't think I'm going to consider Tim Boyle if he's playing.
No, there's definitely going to be a lot of. The thing is, if those guys do sit, the ownership concentration on the Vegas Dallas game is going to be insane for a 3-game slate. Generally.
Especially if we get the news.
There are no good receivers on this.
Yeah, no, Diggs is going to be like 80%. Diggs might be like 90% owned, actually.
If Lamb doesn't play, I think Diggs will be 90%. Yeah, I actually think 90 is a real number for him.
Yeah. I'm not being facetious at all.
No. And he's $2,000 more expensive than the next active receiver in that scenario.
And going to tight end,
5,900.
Look at that. Yeah.
Going to tight end, Darren Waller will probably also push for like 70% because people will have, like Matt said, they're going to have 2 slots for scrub receivers, so they'll have enough money probably to pay up for Waller too. He may not be 70, but he'll get up.
We actually, during the show, we found out Adam Troutman is not going to play. I think or is it? I think it's a sprained ACL.
Suffered MCL sprain in the loss. He'll be out 4 to 6 weeks.
We get like not as much, but yeah, this is going to be a crazy one. You're going to be playing some people like Cedric Wilson and Khalif. There's going to be some weird
Khalif Raymond
lineup this Thanksgiving.
DJ Hawkinson. I think
your family's going to be looking at you Americans and be like, "Who is this guy you're cheering for on your couch?"
The other thing with Thanksgiving slates, I'm not sure how true this is, and it probably varies by contest. But like, if there's late news, people are asleep like at 6 p.m. after dinner, like. People will not get to the late swaps that they need to get to necessarily because like you're drunk and full on Thanksgiving. It's hard to keep up, and the games are spread out so much. Like the slate starts at 12:30. If Alvin Kamara is a game time decision, like people will be paying attention at 7:45, but like you will lose some people who are not paying attention still at that point. That's 7 hours after lock.
We couldn't talk about stuff like that doing Madden, but now with the E for everyone thing gone, we can talk about that narrative. That's a good call. Plus, all these games are in domes too. That's something to think about, right? New Orleans, Dallas, Detroit. We don't have to worry about weather.
Where are the Packers? Don't they usually play?
I thought so too. I always thought it was Detroit, Dallas, and then I think they just make it up every year for the last game, right?
Maybe it was just a coincidence that it was always Green Bay and they're not really part of the core teams.
Yeah. Don't tell Geoff that. They're a core team. Real quick before we go, what do you think on the sportsbook side? These lines, Meiselman, what do you got?
I'm really reluctant to want to pick the Raiders, but if the Cowboys are missing all their receivers, I just don't know how good their offense really is with starting Gallup and Cedric Wilson. It might be enough of a downgrade off. Like Lamb's really good, and so is Cooper. So it's contingent on that. But otherwise, like if Jared Goff plays and Andy Dalton plays, like maybe the lines are appealing. There's not a lot that jumps out. Like my gut feeling is that the Bills get back on track against the Saints, but I'm not sure if that line, like I might have needed it to be a little, like 3.5 would have seemed better. I mean, obviously that's a point lower, but like that might have been enough to make it a good play. I'm not sure at 4.5. I really like it that much, but I would be surprised if the Bills have another bad game.
Got anything, Geoff, on the sportsbook side before we sign off?
Probably just the Bills. Yeah, I assume they'll probably everyone will probably be back on the Bills by the end of the week, so this line could probably go up to 5.5. That's probably where I would jump in right now. Everything else is a little bit up for grabs. I've been a big proponent that the Raiders are a team that you can start fading, and it definitely worked out last week with the Bengals. It was like one of the only games they got right, but even with the Cowboys receivers are out, if they get ruled out and this game gets down to like 5.5, I'll jump on Dallas. They're a better team than the Raiders. I think they're just better everywhere. So at 7, yeah, it's a little dicey. I definitely wanted to get under a touchdown, but I'm still pretty bullish on the Cowboys here.
I also, if Lamb ends up playing, -7 might be fine. Like,
yes,
the line will probably go up for like that. That might be the best way to play it. Is just if Lamb ends up being able to clear concussion protocol, just bet Cowboys -7.
All right. And Geoff, we'll be together on Wednesday night. Emerson's going to be out, so I'll be here Wednesday. We'll get our.
Was he golfing?
I don't know if he can golf at 6:00 at night these days.
He's probably going to try though. He's not very smart. So.
Maybe. Yeah. He'll wear a headlamp out in the course. So yeah, we'll be together on Wednesday night. I will not be here tomorrow. Adam Kaufman is filling in for yours truly. So with that being said, we need to go. All of you have a great night. Best of luck with your showdown lineups. Also, any bets you place tonight, not just the NFL, but everything. This program is, again, during the 5 p.m. Eastern hour every weekday, and it takes you up right until 6 o'clock. We do have the sweat tomorrow at 11 a.m. Be sure to join us on Twitter, the live stream, also on Twitch and YouTube. For Matt Meiselman, Geoff Ulrich, Eamon, and Andrew behind the scenes, Brendan Glasheen. You all have a great night. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.